So good evening. We are back to the study of the Spirits book. I'm just going to share this picture here as a reminder of what we did. This is the hierarchy of the spirits. We have three orders: the first order, the second order, and the third order. And in this graph, for those that are online, you can see that the latest version, the Spirits book second edition, which is the one we study, divides the third order or imperfect spirits in impure, frivolous, pseudo-learned, neutral, and disturbing. That's what we studied last week. Today we are going to study the second order and probably the first order. These are the types. The second order is divided in four, and the first order, of course, pure spirits. There is only one order, the pure spirits. Okay, so I'm going to share now the text, and I'll ask Philip to read for us, starting on the second order, good spirits.
General characteristics. These spirits prevail over matter and desire excellence. Their qualities and power to do good match their degree of perfection. While some possess scientific knowledge, others have acquired wisdom and charity. The more advanced spirits combine intelligence with moral superiority. Not yet completely dematerialized, they preserve the traces of their physical existence, which vary greatly according to their rank. These traces are seen either in their method of expression, practices, or even in the quirks and habits still retained by them. If it were not for these weaknesses and imperfections, they would be able to be pure spirits. They understand God and infinity and share the happiness of higher spirits. Doing good and preventing malevolence truly inspires them and makes them happy. Envy, regret, and all the bad passions that torment imperfect spirits have no place in their hearts of good spirits. The love that unites them is an overwhelming source of happiness. Nevertheless, they still have trials to undergo to reach absolute perfection. As spirits, they inspire good thoughts, turn people away from the path of wickedness, protect those whose actions make them worthy of their assistance, and neutralize the influence of lower spirits on the minds of those who do not willingly yield to the sinful guidance of the latter. The human beings that these spirits reincarnate into are good and compassionate towards others. Excuse me a second. They are motivated neither by pride, selfishness, nor ambition. They feel neither hatred, resentment, envy, nor jealousy, and do good purely for the sake of doing good. Good, protective, and benevolent spirits belong to this order. During periods of ignorance and superstition, people worship them as benevolent deities. They may be divided into four main groups.
Thanks. So, just a reminder of what we are studying here. The Spirits book is comprised mainly of questions are asked by Kardec and answered by the spirits. This part here is written by Kardec, and he's writing this part analyzing the communications he was receiving from several different mediums, analyzing the types of communications and the characteristics of the spirits behind the communications. So this is all written by Kardec. Again, Kardec was a scholar. He wrote as Denis Rivail, he wrote books, educational books in several subjects before getting involved with Spiritism. And one of the characteristics that Kardec always had was the organization, the capacity of put things in an organized sense that can make sense and can be easy to understand. And that's what he's doing here. He's dividing the spirits in three orders and then subdividing the orders according to his own analysis. And of course, he says, he said before here that the spirits revise everything that he writes himself. So it's not that he wrote something that the spirits may not agree with it, because as we mentioned last week, whenever he wrote something wrong, the spirits will call his attention. So this is supervised by the spirits, but is written by Kardec, and generally refers to the spirits that are sending communications. These second order spirits are spirits that where goodness prevails over evil. Their tendency of doing good is what prevails in them. They still have trials to undergo. Maybe they will have some atonements and expiations from previous existences, but their main focus is to help and assist others. Some possess more intellectual knowledge, some more evolved morally, and we'll see that those in the classes. They are still not completely dematerialized, as Kardec says, meaning they still have connections to the physical world, right? I remember the story that Chico Xavier told about this spirit that once he, according to him, a very evolved spirit that he met sitting in a rocking chair. He saw the spirit sitting in a rocking chair in a house that he was passing by, and he asked the spirit, you know, what are you doing here? You don't need to be here anymore. And the spirit answered, well, I miss sometimes my rocking chair, so I come here and use it a little bit. So again, a superior spirit, but still has some material attachments, right? So these spirits are not perfect spirits, but they have the ability to understand God. They share the happiness of higher spirits. They try to do good. They are not influenced by the inferior passions that we the imperfect spirits have. They try to help and assist. So whenever they send messages, are messages of incentive, are messages of good guidance, will never be messages of imposing their truths or telling us what to do. We will always be messages of inspiring us what to do. And then Kardec says that the human beings that these spirits reincarnate into are good and compassionate towards others. We can think of a Mother Teresa, right? Which is this type of a spirit that the main concern was to help and assist others. You know, she was clearly morally elevated. We don't know exactly how much intellectually elevated she was, but again, the moral aspect is more difficult to achieve than the intellectual achievement. And then Kardec says they don't feel hatred, resentment, envy, jealousy, and do good purely for the sake of doing good. When goodness become a part of who they are, not because they know they have to do it, so they make an effort doing it. This is ourselves at our stage. We know we have to do good for our own good, so we make an effort of doing good. This type of evolved spirits, they do good out of who they are and not because they know that they have to do good or something like that. Okay, there are four main groups here that Kardec divides. So let's go through each one of them. If anyone has any questions, comments.
Can you talk a little bit more about that statement? Not completely dematerialized, they preserve the traces of their physical existence. What do they mean with the traces of their physical existence? Is it the perispirit? Because it has to be no body. I mean, they're already on the other side.
Yeah,
So, so I'm kind just that's confusing to me. That's all.
yeah, traces of the physical existence mean they are not completely free from earthly passions or attachments. Like the example I gave, this spirit that missed his rocking chair, right? So they are, because a pure spirit has no trace of any physicality, any connections with the physical world. These spirits may still have some attachments, not attachments that are going to cause them any difficulties, but they still have some links to the physical world. Doesn't show in the perispirit. The perispirit is already ethereal. It's the spirit, their minds. Their minds are not completely free from everything that belongs to the physical world.
Okay.
Yeah.
So actually, it's some residual traces of kind of remembrance.
Yes, but remembrance, they all remember their times, but they remember parts of it they miss not in the debilitating sense, but they miss, you know.
They're residual. They're residual.
Yeah.
They're still, yeah.
Yeah.
They're not determining, but they kind of, yeah. Okay, no, you explain. Okay, thank you.
Yeah, you know, we can understand, right? You know, it's you go through some experiences on your youth, right? We are imperfect spirits, and you look back on your youth and you miss one thing or another, right? But they are not traumas, or they are not debilitating experiences. Just you know, I miss when I used to go to, I don't know, I was talking to a friend this week, and he's from Rio, and I was talking to him about the time I used to go to Rio at the time when I was a teenager. That I used to go frequently to Rio, and I was telling him, wow, now that I remember, I miss it, right? So it's not something that caused me any harm or anything, but just when I remember, you know, you miss. I think it's in that sense. Of course, I'm
Yeah,
not.
but I guess I guess I was thrown off by the word dematerialize.
Yeah,
I guess that's probably.
Dematerialized, meaning what the pure spirits are completely dematerialized.
Okay. Thank you.
Thanks, Paco. That's benevolent spirits.
These spirits shine in their sense of kindness. They take pleasure in helping and protecting people. Their knowledge is somewhat narrow, and although they have progressed in the moral sense, they are lacking in intelligence.
Again, we have two wings of evolution, the intellectual and the moral. The intellectual is the easy one because you accumulate knowledge on top of knowledge and you keep adding. The moral evolution, it consists in eliminating imperfections, and it's always more difficult to eliminate imperfections than to add more things on what you already have. So but there are those that are capable of that. We just mentioned Mother Teresa, and my understanding of Mother Teresa, she would fall exactly into this class of a benevolent spirit. It's shining their sense of kindness. They take pleasure in helping and protecting people, right? You remember that famous story of her with the journalist that suddenly he was interviewing her. She runs out of the building and goes through the streets of Calcutta, and then she reaches a pile of garbage, starts to removing things, and finds a body there, or someone that was about to die, put the guy in her arms, and the guy discarnates in her arms. And the journalist turns to her and says, I couldn't do that even for $1 million. And she answers, nor could I, only for love. So you see, you know, that's a benevolent spirit. That is someone that takes pleasure in helping and protecting people without expecting anything in return. They do it for their own sake. We read this and we see that, you know, we still have a long way to go to get there, right? Okay.
Fourth class. Scholarly spirits.
Yeah.
These spirits are particularly marked by the vast extent of their knowledge. They are more interested in scientific research, for which they have a greater aptitude than moral issues. Their scientific studies are always focused on practical utility and are entirely free of the passions commonly possessed by imperfect spirits.
So here we have the other wing of evolution, right? Spirits that have superior knowledge. And with the superior knowledge, that's their focus. When they give communications, is to share their knowledge, not to console, to comfort. That's not their focus. Can't they do that? Yes, they can, because they are already good spirits. But they are more interested in the scientific aspect or philosophical aspect than into sharing their moral evolvement. Without the moral evolvement, they wouldn't be in this class. They have to have the moral evolvement also, but it is not their main focus. Their main focus is on the knowledge development and the share of this knowledge with those that are interested. Again, they share their knowledge not for any personal gain, but because they take pleasure in helping and assisting people learning more. So the benevolent spirits take pleasure in helping and protecting people, taking care of people, but they are not teaching these people anything. The scholarly spirits are more interested in helping those that need to learn, that need to progress intellectually. That's what they focus. But again, they have to be morally evolved to be in that category. Okay? And then when you put the one and two together, you get the wise spirits.
These spirits are set apart by their extremely elevated moral qualities. Not yet possessing unlimited knowledge, they have an intellectual capacity that enables them to judge people and things correctly.
So when you combine the two previous categories, benevolent and scholarly, you get the wise spirits. So spirits that have extremely elevated moral qualities, but not possessing unlimited knowledge, but enough knowledge and understanding of people to analyze people and things correctly. So they are doing a work that is more relevant in terms of assisting those in need than the benevolent or scholarly spirits. Again, we have to remember that when we are studying these are types of spirits that are beyond our level of understanding of what a superior spirit is. So we may read these and see very little difference because we are not able to differentiate, because they all seem much superior to us and how can we differentiate them? But Kardec has done a very good job in differentiating them. I'm sure Kardec is part of this class of good spirits, and I would say probably in the category of wise spirit. But like Emmanuel, for instance, I think Emmanuel is either wise or superior spirit. But again, it's just us guessing here and analyzing things that are beyond our capacity of what we are today. So if you look at this, read these categories and don't find much difference between them or don't understand the differences, because we are still far from getting there. So for us, like the description of Dante Alighieri of heaven, which is, according to those that have read, I haven't, it's very boring because he couldn't really describe what's heaven because of lack of being there. We all been to hell, and we all can describe hell because we went through the experiences, right?
I'm sorry, João, I have read the book recently, actually, and I'm reading again in Italian. And the description of heaven is very, very similar to the idea of spiritisms. There are actually amazing passages that were very, very close to what we have read in Emmanuel and André Luiz. This is something that I was going to bring up whenever you mention it, but since you're mentioning La Divina Commedia, it's something that I am very, very familiar with. So it's very fun. The hell is actually very boring because so much literature has been written about it, and so much of horror movies are taken from visions of hell that for us these days, I find it very trite. And the idea of heaven, it again is very close to spiritism as we know. So it's a fun read. I highly recommend.
Great. Thank you, Fabio. Very good to hear that, because what I just said, I heard from someone that read all of them and is a spiritist, a serious spiritist, and that was his interpretation of the books. That hell was very well described and heaven was very boring. So you gave me a different opinion, and I will use both of them because I think it's important. I haven't read, but
thank you. Good, thanks.
Thank you. Okay.
Superior spirits?
Yeah, you put all three together and you get the superior spirits, I think.
These spirits exemplify scientific knowledge, wisdom, and goodness. Their language only displays benevolence, and it is always dignified and elevated, oftentimes sublime. Their superiority makes them the most likely to be motivated to share the most honest ideas with respect to the invisible world with human beings within the limits of the knowledge permitted to us. They willingly communicate with those who honestly seek truth and with those who have freed themselves enough from the shackles of materialism to be capable of understanding it. They dismiss those whose inquiries are prompted only by curiosity or who veer from the path of righteousness in pursuit of material temptations. Under the exceptional circumstances, they may incarnate on earth to accomplish a mission of advancement or development, and they show us the ideal perfection to which we can hope to attain on earth.
Okay, I read this about superior spirit. I think of Emmanuel. Maybe he is, maybe do not. But the communications that he gave to us through Chico Xavier, right? He gives us the knowledge of the spiritual world. He shares honest ideas. His communications are always dignified and elevated, and oftentimes sublime, right? How many times we read Emmanuel's messages and find them sublime. Again, I'm not saying he is a superior spirit, but when I see the description, it reminds me of him. And it says, under exceptional circumstances, they may incarnate on earth to accomplish a mission. A spirit like that, an Emmanuel, a Joanna de Angelis, a Francis of Assisi, would only incarnate on earth to accomplish a mission. They will come on a mission to help us move forward, right? You can think of St. Francis of Assisi as a superior spirit for sure. And you can think of Joanna de Angelis as one of these, maybe a wise spirit, maybe a superior spirit, for sure, also based on the communications that she leaves to us. So these are still not pure spirits. They are, you read this and if you think, what is missing from them for them to be a pure spirit, right? And I cannot tell you, but according to Kardec, they're still not pure spirits. So there's something still missing there. They still need to continue evolving. And Emmanuel often says that, that he needs to evolve. Emmanuel once said that to fully understand the gospel, someone will need 20 billion years. If you think that our universe has 14 billion years, so you can reach your own conclusions with that. But again, superior spirit is a spirit that is almost there, right? There is probably needs some polishing here and there, but I don't know where, but still not a pure spirit.
It's very too abstract for us if I conceive the idea of a spirit of that high level of moral and intellectual development.
Yeah.
It's too far from us.
Yeah, it's very abstract. And now we read the first order, pure spirits. Of course, there is only one order of one characteristic, only class, because once you reach pure spirit, there's nothing more than one class, right?
General characteristics. Matter has no influence over their spirits. They are characterized by moral and intellectual superiority in relation to the spirits of others. Continue.
Yes.
First class, only class. These spirits have climbed every rung of the ladder of progress and have shed all the impurities of matter. As they have reached the sum of perfection that can be achieved by created beings, they no longer experience trials and tribulations. No longer subjected to reincarnation, they enter eternal life in the immediate presence of God. They enjoy permanent happiness because they are no longer subject to the wants or variations of material life. This happiness is not the tedious idleness of perpetual contemplation. They are God's messengers and ministers, the executors of God's will in maintaining universal harmony. They exercise independent control over all inferior spirits, aid them in accomplishing their purification, and assign each of them a mission for their progress. They genuinely strive to assist human beings in their time of need by motivating them to the love of good or making amends for the faults that keep them from supreme happiness. They are sometimes called angels, archangels, or seraphim. People can communicate with them. However, those who claim to have them constantly at their service are foolishly arrogant.
Okay, so here Kardec gives us some characteristics of these pure spirits, perfected spirits. matter has no influence over the spirits. So what we discussed, Paco, earlier, right? At this stage of evolution, matter has no influence at all. Doesn't mean that they cannot come and incarnate. Jesus did. They work directly with God in executing God's will. As Kardec says here, they are the executors of God's will in maintaining universal harmony. So God acts through the pure spirits, which in their which act through their less evolved spirits, right? When I was discussing the other day messages that some mediums here in the US claim that they receive messages directly from Jesus, right? And I was discussing exactly that point. Why Jesus would communicate directly with us if they have a long list of spirits that are above us and below him that can give communications and can, by doing that, learn and work on their own evolutionary path, right? We don't need communications directly from Jesus. We can hardly understand the communications given to us by some of these more evolved spirits that dictate books to us, right? So it all works on a pyramid scheme, right? At the top is God, and then maybe from the pure spirits are in direct connection with God and communicates through the lower ranks through the less evolved spirits. In André Luiz books, you find more than once a superior spirit materializing itself in a lower spiritual level, not in the physical level, spiritual level, to give the messages. So instead of, and sometimes through mediumship also. So sometimes they will communicate in the spiritual world through mediumship to less evolved spirits in the spiritual world, and sometimes they even materialize themselves. So you can see all the work that takes for these spirits to go to lower levels. It is said that Jesus took 1,000 years to prepare himself to incarnate on earth, to prepare his very spirit to adapt to the gross nature of Earth's atmosphere, right? Because we know that the perispirit, we read that and just studied that this perispirit, it gets matter from the planet that the spirit is incarnate. They are no longer subject to reincarnation. That's also important. When you reach the level of pure spirit, meaning you overcome all the trials and you've finished all your atonements or expiations. You no longer have expiations and you no longer need trials because you don't need to continue facing difficulties to evolve. You can think of these spirits, because the law is of progress, you can think that pure or perfected spirits continue to evolve without ever reaching God. Otherwise, God wouldn't be God if these spirits would become God, right? So you think of two parallel lines getting closer and closer and closer to each other towards infinite, and that's how I think of these perfected spirits or pure spirits evolution after they reach this level. But again, this is speculation. This is our understanding of the law of progress and understanding of, if you have a governor of the planet, Jesus, which is already a perfect spirit, and you have a governor of the solar system, you have to think that he has something else more than Jesus. And then you have a governor of the galaxy. And then you have if you consider more than one universe, you have a governor of the universe. So you have to think that the spirits are above the ones below them. But again, it's just us speculating here, and it is really not going to add anything to us by continue speculating on that. It's just our understanding. Yes, Paco.
So, am I correct to believe that perfection is an ongoing process, even at that stage?
That's my understanding also.
Okay, so we can also call these people, pure spirits, the leading edge of perfection, just short of absolute perfection that is God's.
Yes.
Leading
Again,
edge up to that point, because it's going to continue. So
Yeah,
that's why I call it. That's what I call leading edge, short of the absolute perfection that is only possessed by God.
if you call God absolute perfection,
Yes,
your spirits are not absolute perfection.
they're just the leading edge of perfection.
If it's not absolute perfection,
The most advanced perfection at that point.
I think we lack words, Paco, but yes, I think you were right on your thought, but I don't think we have words to really define or explain very well.
No, because I'm satisfied with my statement, because no matter how perfect we are, we're not going to be God. That's what you said.
Yes.
But at that every point in time is the leading, the most advanced at that point in time,
Yes.
just short of God.
Yeah. Again, I have nothing against what you were saying, right? But you can imagine someone listening to you and said, "Well, if we are short of, we're not there." And
But we're totally short of God. Remember that. That's
yeah,
which we'll never get there. Short of being perfect, like
yeah.
God.
Absolute perfection is if you consider absolute perfection only God, no spirit will reach absolute perfection. You get closer and closer and closer,
Closer. That's my point. Closer and closer.
eternally closer and closer and closer without ever reaching
Reaching that point. Yeah.
And I think that's why Kardec uses pure spirit, not perfect spirit. Because the relationship has to be among spirits. It's not a relationship to God. The class here is a class of spirits. So
That's a very good point.
related that class of those who have reached perfect purification, meaning that is completely free of all possible vices, is completely free of all possible passions, and has conquered all possible virtues. So it's pure. And I think there's a lot of people, Kardec uses the word pure, and I think it's a better word. Because the relationship that Kardec makes here on the classes is of spirits. It's from a parallel or comparison of spirits, not of spirits to God.
Exactly. That should you're right. You're correct. Definitely. That's a good point, because God should not even come into the picture. That's
That's
true.
correct. God is another thing.
Yes.
Yeah, I agree.
No. That's very, very good. God should not even be in the picture. Yes.
Julius says not perfect spirit, but perfected
Yeah.
spirit. That makes more sense.
Perfected. Yeah.
Okay, now we go back to Kardec asking questions to the spirits and getting answers from the spirits. Okay, progress of spirit.
Are spirits good or bad by nature? Or are the same spirits made better by the force of their own efforts? The same spirits are made better through their own efforts. They rise from a lower to a higher order as they improve.
So Kardec asking here if spirits are created good or bad, or if the spirits may become better by their own effort. And the spirits answer clearly that the same spirits are better through their own efforts. They rise from a lower to a higher order as they improve. We just went through the order. So as the spirits improve, they go from second to the third to second to first order. Okay.
Are some spirits created good and others bad? God created all spirits simple and unaware, meaning lacking all knowledge. God has given them each a particular mission to enlighten them and to help them gradually reach perfection through the knowledge of the truth and rise closer to Him. In that perfection, they will find eternal bliss without any troubles. Spirits acquire knowledge by experiencing the trials inflicted by God. While some accept these trials with resignation and arrive at their destiny more quickly, others are defiant and remain far from the perfection and happiness promised to them through no fault other than their own. According to this statement, spirits are like children when they are born, unaware and without experience. However, gradually, they acquire the knowledge that they lack by experiencing the different phases of human life. Yes, that is a fair comparison. Rebellious children remain ignorant and imperfect. How much they benefit depends on their obedience. A person's life has an end, while that of spirits extends beyond infinity.
Okay, so this is very important concept that a lot of people question, and a lot of people, because of coming from other religions, of other ideas, sometimes have trouble understanding. The spirits are clear here. God created all spirits simple and unaware. The original word in French would translate as ignorant, but ignorant here became a negative word, a pejorative word. So that's why it was changed in the translation to unaware, because it means completely lack any knowledge and any moral evolvement. Simple. And again, we are going to study later in the book, we come to become a spirit after going through the different kingdoms of nature, the mineral, the vegetable, the animal kingdom. Going through those phases as spiritual principle, not individual spirit. Later in the animal kingdom, becoming individual spiritual principle, but still not a spirit. And then when we become the human phase, we become individual spirit. We bring from that journey through the different kingdoms, the autonomic functions and the instinct with some signs of rudimentary intelligence that animals have. And we start developing it. As Kardec, as the spirits explain here, spirits acquire knowledge by experiencing the trials inflicted by God. What are trials? Trials are challenges that are placed in front of us for us to learn, for us to develop our moral and intellectual abilities. It's different from atonement. A spirit that is simple and unaware has no atonement because they didn't do anything wrong. By learning something, making mistakes, and repeating the mistakes. That's how you create atonements. When you make a mistake because you didn't know, because you are learning, you don't create any atonement or expiation. When you learn how to do something and continue doing it wrong, is when you create
Karma.
what is called karma,
Yeah.
or the expiation. So in the very beginning of our journey, when we are cavemen, right? We have what we do. We have basically only instincts. We want to survive, we want to eat, we want to procreate. But with some rudimentary signs of intelligence, we start learning how to better protect ourselves, how to better take advantage of what nature gives to us, how to better make use of the others that are around us, other spirits that are around us. So by that, we keep repeating the experiences and learning from those experiences. What happens in the very beginning stages of our spiritual evolution is that we have short and quick reincarnations. We die early, we come back immediately because there is nothing for us to learn in the spiritual world. We don't have the capacity of learning anything in the spiritual world. The more we evolve, the more we can learn from our time in the spiritual world. So our time in the spiritual world will become larger. So André Luiz describes in the book Evolution in Two Worlds that the so-called primitive spirits, individuals incarnated that lived in, for instance, in the jungle, when they go back to the spiritual world, because they don't know better and they're afraid of everything, they stay there, exactly where they were in the jungle, connected to the jungle by their thoughts and their fear, and come back to a reincarnation in the jungle. So they don't experience anything in the spiritual world for lack of evolvement. Now, how the spirits tells us here, how we accept these trials with resignation and arrive at our destiny more quickly depends on us. Others are more defiant, remaining far from perfection through our own fault. So we have endless opportunities, endless reincarnations. Our journey is always moving forward. We have opportunities to learn, and how we take advantage of these learning opportunities is what makes us move faster or slower in our moral and intellectual progress. And then on the second question, Kardec compares us to children, right? Like spirits are like children when they are born, unaware and without any knowledge. And it is an analogy, and it is more or less what happens to children. It's a fair comparison. So rebellious children remain ignorant and imperfect. How much they benefit depends on their obedience. With the difference that a person's life has an end, the physical life ends, and the spiritual life extends beyond infinity. So it's not only infinity, goes beyond infinity, right? What does that mean? Don't ask me. Okay. Questions here?
I I rewrote it in my own. I like to change my words here. You know that? Because this is a simple. I just how I am with my words. But I like what I wrote. Let me tell you. God created spirits completely unaware, yet with full potential to gain full awareness and knowledge and moral development, leading to a blissful destiny.
Perfect.
I
Exactly.
like that. I love that.
Yes, perfect.
I
Perfect.
like. You like it?
Yes, perfect description. Exactly that, right? Simple and unaware, and
Yeah,
with opportunities.
completely unaware, but with the potential.
Yeah, and again, we all will reach perfection. All spirits will reach perfection, because one of the natural laws is the law of progress, and we are going to talk about this on the next question, right? On the evolutionary path. But And the spirits are going to tell us that the speed of evolution depends on each one of us.
Responsibility.
117,
116.
sorry. Do any spirits remain in the lower ranks forever? No, they all eventually become perfect. They change over the course of time, no matter how long that progress may take. As we have already explained, a just and merciful Father cannot condemn his children to eternal banishment. Do you presume that God, in his infinite goodness and divine justice, is less kind than you?
Again, the spirits are very clear. They all eventually become perfect. It's not most of them, it's not the majority, it's all. All spirits become perfect. So no spirit remains in the lower ranks forever. And again, they can stay there for a very long time. We have eternity ahead of us. So the progress can be, and many times is, very slow. We don't see much progress on many spirits when we compare incarnations, because 2-3 incarnations is nothing compared to eternity. And there are some books that talk about our evolution, and one of them says very clearly that if you look at yourself in your previous incarnation and this incarnation, you'll notice very little changes, because our evolution is very slow at our level of evolution. But God, in his infinite goodness and divine justice, creates us to reach perfection. So we all will become perfect, even our pure spirits, even those that you look nowadays to your side and say, I don't believe this can ever become pure spirit. Yes, they will. Those that committed the horrible crimes that we see in history, they will also become pure spirits. Okay.
117. Are the spirits themselves responsible for accelerating their progress to perfection? Of course. They reach their goal more or less quickly, depending on the force of their desire and the degree of their submission to God's will. Doesn't a docile and submissive child learn faster than one who is stubborn and lazy?
Again, one thing that Spiritism teaches us is individual responsibility. Nobody can do our progress for ourselves. We have to do our own job. Depends on the, as they say here, the force of our desire and degree of their submission to God's will. What does the spirits mean, degree of submission to God's will? God created the perfect laws, the natural laws. The more we stay within the natural laws, the more we are going to evolve in a faster pace. The more we challenge the natural and perfect laws, the more we make things difficult for us. The other day I was listening to Georges Lahat talking about our evolutionary path, and he made a very interesting comparison. He said, you can think of our evolution not as a track of a train, right? A rail, which is a defined path, not as a road that that you can deviate from the road, but eventually you have to come back for the road, but as a spider web. But there are hundreds of different ways you can go to reach the evolutionary path. And we see that each individual has their own path of evolution. And as long as we stay, the closer we stay within God's law, all the divine laws, the faster we are going to evolve. Because when we have a trial, we make a mistake and we learn from our mistake, we are evolving. If we are not creating any karma, the problem is when we do not learn from our mistakes and we create difficulties for ourselves. Okay. Let's read
118.
Yeah, one more, because this one is good to finish.
Can spirits regress? No. They learn what has impeded their progress as they advance. When spirits finish a trial, they learn the lesson of that trial and never forget it. They may remain stationary, but they never regress.
Okay, so the law is of progress. So spirits never regress according to spiritism. The Eastern philosophies that believe that if you are an evil spirit, you can reincarnate as a man. Spiritism tells us no, that cannot happen. We are always moving forward. When we finish a trial and learn the lesson of the trial and never forget, we move forward. When the spirits say they may remain stationary, but they never regress, even by staying stationary, you are learning. What are you learning? You are learning that remaining stationary just delays your progress. So eventually, you look back and see that you learn that that's not what you should be doing, remaining stationary. So even remaining stationary, you are learning something. At least you are learning what not to do. So the law is of progress. We always progress. A spirit never regrets. And again, we have to be very careful, because people will come and say, but I look around in the world and it looks to me like we are moving backwards instead of moving forward with everything that's happening in the world. There are two things here. First, you have to take a bird's eye view for the evolution of humankind, and you can clearly see that we are better than we were 100 and 200 years ago. And second, the spirits that are reincarnating here are not the same spirits that already reached a level of evolution. The spirits that are still coming here to learn, still spirits that evil prevails over goodness in a lot of them. So that's why we see everything that is happening around us, and we think that the world is regressing. It's not regressing, it's just that we take a very restricted view of everything that is happening, and we compare to a time that we think was better, which was not really, but we have this problem with remembering the good things and forgetting the difficulties, and thinking that my life 30 years ago was better than today because things were different. But then in reality, we are always progressing. Okay.
John, Carol here, quick question. I have heard the terminology fallen angels. Would this just mean that maybe they stubbed their toe and they had a little, I don't know, bad episode, but does that mean that they would revert to a lower form, a lower life?
No, there is the word falling angel doesn't apply to spiritism, right? It will say what what we can define as a fallen angel is some spirit that we may have thought as a more evolved spirit than they really were. And when they show themselves not to be the more evolved spirits, they become in our eyes a fallen angel. But actually they were never angels in the first place. That's the reality.
Oh, thank you. I never really quite understood that. Thank you so much.
Yeah, I don't think, well, we don't have angels in spiritism, right? Because angels are beings created perfect according to the definition of angels in the in the Catholic Church. So spiritism, all spirits are created simple and unaware. So can you become the so-called angel? Yes, maybe when you become a pure spirit, you can call yourself angel if you want. But you started, even Jesus started as simple and unaware and reached the perfection. Okay.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Thanks. Okay, so we're going to stop here. What do we have this this weekend? We have our lecture on Saturday. Will be our good friend Luis Vilassa, that hasn't been participating in our studies for some time. He's going to talk about spirits' influence in our thoughts, based on the question of the Spirit's book, of the Spirit's influence in our thoughts. He's going to talk about the many ways that spirits influence the physical world, with a special focus on the effects on human beings. It talks about the codification works of André Luiz, of Brother Jacob, and among other discarnated spirits, and how we can become aware of that, as well as ways to minimize negative influences. Book Club, Paul and Stephen, Chapter 4, Wednesday. The virtual course is the second set of classes are available. So if you have been following, started last Monday, the second set of classes, 4 more classes. We are going to have here at SGNY as Science and Spiritism on May 11. It's a Saturday from 3 to 6 p.m. Dr. Alexander Moreira Almeida, lecture based on his book, Science of Life After Death. Again, as I mentioned before, he's the top spiritist scientist in Brazil nowadays. And his wife, Dr. Angélica Almeida, is going to talk about her work on the project Allan Kardec, Rescuing the Origins of Spiritism. Okay. This Sunday, we are going to have our Q&A session. Please bring your questions. We will try to provide answers if we can. Okay. It's Sunday, 11 a.m. Carol, can you do our final prayer?
Yes, certainly. Thank you very much. Thank you, John and Elmo, and thank you, Philip, for reading for us this evening. Infinite Creator and Divine Providence, we are grateful to be together for our studies of the Spirit's book, being Part 2, Chapter 1, Types of Characteristics and Communications of Spirits. The second order are our good spirits. They understand God, infinity, and share happiness of higher spirits. They do good and desire excellence. They still have trials as they move toward perfection. They want to help others and neutralize the effects of the lower spirits, but are not completely mentally free of physical existence. Benevolent spirits, they are kind and have progressed morally and need to increase their intellectual side. Scholarly spirits, they have superior knowledge and focus, which they are interested in sharing. However, they need to develop their moral side. The wise spirits have very elevated moral qualities with a balance of intellect and keen insights about people and things. Superior spirits, the communications they give and share are elevated and sublime. They have a special mission on Earth, and they continue to evolve, but they are getting closer and closer to perfection. The first class, known as pure spirits, they are with God and no longer reincarnate. Dense matter has no influence at all on them. They are aligned with God's activities in their eternal life and assist with the universal harmony. They are never idle. The progress of spirits. Spirits are created simple, unaware, and without experience. Each will acquire knowledge throughout life's challenges via the moral and intellectual growth. Our development depends on how we take advantage of the opportunities. We all will reach perfection. As we align with the natural laws, we will never regress. Infinite Creator and Supreme Intelligence, we give thanks to our spiritual benefactors for guiding and inspiring us this evening. May we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us for our loved ones, our teachers, our directors, the counselors, the mediums, the workers, and each of us. We pray for inner peace and certainly for world peace and for those who are suffering in the physical and spiritual worlds. We pray for our center SGNY and all Spiritus centers throughout the world that they may grow, progress, expand, and be protected by day and by night. As we close, we humbly ask for safety and protection as we return to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. And may we affirm and remind ourselves to go forth as beacons of love, of light, of peace, of service, and charity, which is love in action. So be it.